1 Kings 3:3 through 1 Kings 4. Now Solomon loved the Lord, walking in the statutes of his father David, except that he was sacrificing and burning incense on the high places. And the king went to Gibeon to sacrifice there, because that was the great high place. Solomon offered 1,000 burnt offerings on that altar. In Gibeon the Lord appeared to Solomon in a dream at night. And God said, "Ask what you wish me to give you." Then Solomon said, "You have shown great faithfulness to your servant David, my father, according as he walked before you in truth, righteousness, and uprightness of heart toward you. And you have reserved for him this great faithfulness, that you have given him a son to sit on his throne, as it is this day. And now, Lord my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. Yet I am like a little boy. I do not know how to go out or come in. And your servant is in the midst of your people, whom you have chosen, a great people who are too many to be numbered or counted. So give your servant an understanding heart to judge your people, to discern between good and evil. For who is capable of judging this great people of yours?" Now it was pleasing in the sight of the Lord that Solomon had asked this thing. And God said to him, "Because you have asked this thing, and have not asked for yourself a long life, nor have you asked riches for yourself, nor have you asked for the lives of your enemies, but have asked for yourself discernment to understand justice, behold, I have done according to your words. Behold, I have given you a wise and discerning heart, so that there has been no one like you before you, nor shall one like you arise after you. I have also given you what you have not asked, both riches and honor, so that there will not be any among the kings like you all your days. And if you walk in my ways, keeping my statutes and commandments, as your father David walked, then I will prolong your days." Then Solomon awoke, and behold, it was a dream. And he came to Jerusalem, and stood before the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and offered burnt offerings and made peace offerings, and held a feast for all his servants. Then 2 women who were prostitutes came to the king and stood before him. The one woman said, "Pardon me, my lord. This woman and I live in the same house, and I gave birth to a child while she was in the house. And it happened on the 3rd day after I gave birth that this woman also gave birth to a child, and we were together. There was no stranger with us in the house, only the 2 of us in the house. Then this woman's son died in the night, because she lay on him. So she got up in the middle of the night and took my son from beside me while your servant was asleep, and she laid him at her breast, and laid her dead son at my breast. When I got up in the morning to nurse my son, behold, he was dead. But when I examined him closely in the morning, behold, he was not my son, whom I had borne." Then the other woman said, "No, for the living one is my son, and the dead one is your son." But the first woman said, "No, for the dead one is your son, and the living one is my son." So they spoke before the king. Then the king said, "The one says, 'This is my son who is living, and your son is dead.' And the other says, 'No, for your son is the dead one, and my son is the living one.' And the king said, 'Get me a sword.' So they brought a sword before the king. And the king said, 'Cut the living one in 2, and give half to the one and half to the other.' But the woman whose child was the living one spoke to the king, for she was deeply stirred over her son. And she said, 'Pardon me, my lord. Give her the living child, and by no means kill him.' But the other woman was saying, 'He shall be neither mine nor yours. Cut him.' Then the king replied, 'Give the first woman the living child, and by no means kill him. She is his mother.' When all Israel heard about the judgment which the king had handed down, they feared the king, because they saw the wisdom of God was in him to administer justice. Now King Solomon was king over all Israel. These were his officials: Azariah, the son of Zadok, was the priest. Elihareph and Ahijah, the sons of Shisha, were scribes. Jehoshaphat, the son of Ahilud, was the secretary. Benaiah, the son of Jehoiada, was over the army. And Zadok and Abiathar were priests. And Azariah, the son of Nathan, was over the deputies. And Zabud, the son of Nathan, a priest, was the king's confidant. And Ahishar was over the household. And Adoniram, the son of Abda, was over the forced labor. Solomon had 12 deputies over all Israel, who provided food for the king and his household. Each deputy had to provide food for a month in the year. And these were their names: Ben-Hur, in the hill country of Ephraim; Ben-Decker, in Makaz, and Shalbim, and Beth-Shemesh; Elon-Beth-Hanan; Ben-Hesed, in Arubath. Sokah was his and all the land of Hepher; Ben-Anadab, in all the hills of Dor. Taphath, the daughter of Solomon, was his wife. Bana, the son of Ahilud, in Tanakh, and Megiddo, and all Beth-shean, which is beside Zarethan, below Jezreel, from Beth-shean to Abel-Meholah, as far as the other side of Jokmeam. Ben-Geber, in Ramoth-Gilead, the villages of Jair, the son of Manasseh, which are in Gilead, were his. The region of Argob, which is in Bashan, 60 great cities, with walls and bronze bars, were his. Ahinadab, the son of Iddo, in Mahanaim; Ahimaaz, in Naphtali; he also married Basemath, the daughter of Solomon; Bana, the son of Hushai, in Asher and Bealoth; Jehoshaphat, the son of Paruah, in Issachar; Shimei, the son of Elah, in Benjamin; Geber, the son of Uri, in the land of Gilead, the country of Sihon, king of the Amorites, and of Og, king of Bashan, and he was the only deputy who was in the land. Judah and Israel were as numerous as the sand that is on the seashore in abundance. They were eating, drinking, and rejoicing. Now Solomon was ruling over all the kingdoms, from the Euphrates River to the land of the Philistines, and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provision for one day was 30 cores of fine flour, and 60 cores of meal, 10 fat oxen, 20 pasture-fed oxen, and 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks, and fattened geese. For he was ruling over everything west of the Euphrates River, and from Tiphsah even to Gaza, over all the kings west of the river, and he had peace on all sides surrounding him. So Judah and Israel lived securely, everyone under his vine and his fig tree, from Dan even to Beersheba, all the days of Solomon. Solomon had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots, and 12,000 horsemen. And those deputies provided food for King Solomon, and all who came to King Solomon's table, each in his month. They allowed nothing to be lacking. They also brought barley and straw for the war horses, and baggage horses to place where it was required, each deputy according to his duty. Now God gave Solomon wisdom and very great discernment, and breadth of mind, like the sand is on the seashore. Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the east and all the wisdom of Egypt, for he was wiser than all other people, more than Ethan, the Ezrahite, Heman, Calcol, Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame was known in all the surrounding nations. He also told 3,000 proverbs, and his songs numbered 1,005. He told of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon, even to the hyssop that grows on the wall. He told also of animals, birds, crawling things, and fish. People came from all the nations to hear the wisdom of Solomon, from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. Luke 23. Then the entire assembly of them set out and brought him before Pilate. And they began to bring charges against him, saying, "We found this man misleading our nation, and forbidding us to pay taxes to Caesar, and saying that he himself is Christ, a king." Now Pilate asked him, saying, "So you are the king of the Jews?" And he answered him, and said, "It is as you say." But Pilate said to the chief priests and the crowds, "I find no grounds for charges in the case of this man." But they kept on insisting, saying, "He is stirring up the people, teaching all over Judea, starting from Galilee as far as this place." Now, when Pilate heard this, he asked whether the man was a Galilean. And when he learned that he belonged to Herod's jurisdiction, he sent him to Herod, since he was also in Jerusalem at this time. Now Herod was overjoyed when he saw Jesus, for he had wanted to see him for a long time, because he had been hearing about him, and was hoping to see some sign performed by him. And he questioned him at some length, but he offered him no answer at all. Now the chief priests and the scribes stood there, vehemently charging him. And Herod, together with his soldiers, treated him with contempt, and mocked him, dressing him in a brightly shining robe, and sent him back to Pilate. And so Herod and Pilate became friends with one another that very day, for previously they had been enemies toward each other. Now Pilate summoned to himself the chief priests, the rulers, and the people, and he said to them, "You brought this man to me on the ground that he is inciting the people to revolt. And behold, after examining him before you, I have found no basis at all in the case of this man for the charges which you are bringing against him. No, nor has Herod, for he sent him back to us. And behold, nothing deserving of death has been done by him. Therefore I will punish him and release him." Now he was obligated to release to them at the feast one prisoner. But they cried out all together, saying, "Away with this man, and release to us Barabbas." He was the one who had been thrown to prison for a revolt that took place in the city and for murder. But Pilate, wanting to release Jesus, addressed them again. But they kept crying out, saying, "Crucify, crucify him." And he said to them a third time, "Why? What has this man done wrong? I have found in his case no grounds for a sentence of death. Therefore I will punish him and release him." But they were insistent, with loud voices, demanding that he be crucified, and their voices began to prevail. And so Pilate decided to have their demand carried out, and he released the man for whom they were asking, who had been thrown into prison for a revolt and murder. But he handed Jesus over to their will. And when they led him away, they seized a man, Simon of Cyrene, as he was coming in from the country, and placed on him the cross to carry behind Jesus. Now following him was a large crowd of people, and of women who were mourning and grieving for him. But Jesus turned to them and said, "Daughters of Jerusalem, stop weeping for me, but weep for yourselves and for your children. For behold, days are coming when they will say, 'Blessed are those who cannot bear, and the wombs that have not given birth, and the breasts that have not nursed.' They will begin to say to the mountains, 'Fall on us,' and to the hills, 'Cover us.' For if they do these things when the tree is green, what will happen when it is dry?" Now 2 others, who were criminals, were also being led away to be put to death with him. And when they came to the place called the Skull, there they crucified him and the criminals, one on the right and the other on the left. But Jesus was saying, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." And they cast lots, dividing his garments among themselves. And the people stood by, watching. And even the rulers were sneering at him, saying, "He saved others, let him save himself, if this is the Christ of God, his chosen one." The soldiers also ridiculed him, coming up to him, offering him sour wine, saying, "If you are the king of the Jews, save yourself." Now there was also an inscription above him, "This is the King of the Jews." One of the criminals who were hanged there was hurling abuse at him, saying, "Are you not the Christ? Save yourself and us." But the other responded, and rebuking him, said, "Do you not even fear God, since you are under the same sentence of condemnation? And we indeed are suffering justly, for we are receiving what we deserve for our crimes. But this man has done nothing wrong." And he was saying, "Jesus, remember me when you come into your kingdom." And he said to him, "Truly I say to you, today you will be with me in paradise." It was now about the 6th hour, and darkness came over the entire land until the 9th hour, because the sun stopped shining, and the veil of the temple was torn in two. And Jesus, crying out with a loud voice, said, "Father, into your hands I entrust my spirit." And having said this, he died. Now when the centurion saw what had happened, he began praising God, saying, "This man was in fact innocent." And all the crowds who came together for this spectacle, after watching what had happened, began to return home, beating their chests. And all his acquaintances, and the women who accompanied him from Galilee, were standing at a distance, seeing these things. And a man named Joseph, who was a member of the council, a good and righteous man, he had not consented to their plan and action, a man from Arimathea, a city of the Jews, who was waiting for the kingdom of God. This man went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. And he took it down and wrapped it in a linen cloth, and laid him in a tomb cut into the rock, where no one had ever lain. It was a preparation day, and the Sabbath was about to begin. Now the women who had come with him from Galilee followed, and they saw the tomb and how his body was laid. And then they returned and prepared spices and perfumes. And on the Sabbath day they rested according to the commandment. 3 John. The elder to the beloved Gaius, whom I love in truth. Beloved, I pray that in all respects you may prosper and be good in health, just as your soul prospers. For I was overjoyed when brothers came and testified to your truth, that is, how you are walking in truth. I have no greater joy than this, to hear of my children walking in the truth. Beloved, you are acting faithfully in whatever you accomplish for the brothers and sisters, and especially when they are strangers. And they have testified to your love before the church. You will do well to send them on their way in a manner worthy of God. For they went out for the sake of the name, accepting nothing from the Gentiles. Therefore we ought to support such people, so that we may prove to be fellow workers with the truth. I wrote something to the church, but Diotrephes, who loves to be first among them, does not accept what we say. For this reason, if I come, I will call attention to his deeds which he does, unjustly accusing us with malicious words. And not satisfied with this, he himself does not receive the brothers either, and he forbids those who want to do so, and puts them out of the church. Beloved, do not imitate what is evil, but what is good. The one who does what is good is of God. The one who does what is evil has not seen God. Demetrius has received a good testimony from everyone, and from the truth itself, and we testify too, and you know that our testimony is true. I had many things to write to you, but I do not want to write to you with pen and ink, but I hope to see you shortly, and we will speak face to face. Peace be to you. The friends greet you. Greet the friends by name. Proverbs 24, 1-12. Do not be envious of evil people, nor desire to be with them, for their minds plot violence, and their lips talk of trouble. By wisdom a house is built, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge the rooms are filled, with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is strong, and a person of knowledge increases power. For by wise guidance you will wage war. In an abundance of counselors there is victory. Wisdom is too exalted for a fool. He does not open his mouth at the gate. One who plans to do evil, people will call a schemer. The devising of foolishness is sin, and the scoffer is an abomination to humanity. If you show yourself lacking courage on the day of distress, your strength is meager. Rescue those who are being taken away to death, and those who are staggering to the slaughter. Oh, hold them back. If you say, "See, we did not know this," does he who weighs the hearts not consider it? And does he who watches over your soul not know it? And will he not repay a person according to his work? Psalm 127. Unless the Lord builds a house, they who build it labor in vain. Unless the Lord guards a city, the watchman stays awake in vain. It is futile for you to rise up early, to stay up late, to eat the bread of painful labor. This is how he gives to his beloved sheep. Behold, children are a gift of the Lord. The fruit of the womb is a reward. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. Blessed is the man whose quiver is full of them. They will not be ashamed when they speak with their enemies in the gate.